Welcome, everybody, to our webinar today. My name is Eric Larson. I'm a wealth advisor with the Focus team here at Farther. And joining me is Jay Chang. Jay is also a wealth advisor. We are working together to bring you this information today. And we're going to be covering the Roth catch-up provisions in 2026 and how to navigate the secure 2.0 shift. We're going to go through a few things today, which I'll cover on the next slide. But I first want to make you aware that we are going to be posting some helpful information in the chat for this call during the call. So please watch the chat button for any new notifications that come up. And there you'll find some good complementary information for what we are talking about today. Now, what we're going to be covering is specifically around the Roth catch-up rules and a few different aspects of those rules. So on this slide here, you see what our general agenda is going to be. We're going to cover the Secure 2.0 update, the Roth mandate, the super catch-up provision, which Jay will go into more detail about. That is a very powerful tool that came out in 2025. And if it applies to you, it's something that's highly important to understand and how to take advantage of that. We're going to be going through what we call a Q1 audit, and that is going to cover really some of the housekeeping items you should do for your personal financial planning and financial plans for the future, the beginning of the year. We will have a Q&A session, a few minutes for Q&A at the end, and then cover some next steps. I will tell you that if you have any questions that come to mind during our presentation today, please make note of that so that you can ask them during our Q&A at the end of this call. You're also welcome at any point to post your questions in the chat box or in the chat function on this call. And you can post your questions at any time during our presentation today. We will address those at the end of the call. So before I get into the material of this, I'd like to give just a quick background on who we are, what is Farther, and what is the Focus team. So we are a independent, comprehensive wealth planning and retirement planning team. We have a few different aspects that we really specialize in, but I first want to say that we operate as fiduciary advisors. What that means is that we hold ourselves to a fiduciary standard, and you can think of that essentially as a legal obligation to only ever say or give you any type of guidance that is in your best interest. So essentially, you could think about it as though we are speaking to our own family when we tell you maybe what we would suggest you do with your money, with your accounts, and with your future plans. So that's the fiduciary standard, and all the advisors on our team operate under this standard. As a team, we do focus specifically on your company benefits. So while we are a full service planning team, which I'll get into in a moment, our specialty is focusing on your specific company benefits. It could be AT&T, PG&E, a number of other companies. And whichever company you work for, one of us or one of our team members will specialize in those plans, and we can take you through step by step everything you need to know to navigate those plans and maximize what your company is giving you. As I mentioned, we are a full service wealth management team. And what that means is that while we do focus on your company benefits as our area of expertise, we also offer complete full financial planning. And that's everything from tax strategies, account setups, contributions before retirement, withdrawal from your account after retirement, taking into account your family members and maybe their accounts and their plans. And so we look at everything holistically. And that's a real benefit a lot of our clients tell us because we don't want to leave any money on the table for you. We want to make sure you're maximizing everything that your company gets or gives to you. So we're going to get into some of the real details about our services and really how we're going to help you on these Roth catch-up provisions here. So I'm going to pass this over to Jay. And Jay, if you could please take us through the bulk here, what we're going to be talking about, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, thank you so much. Again, and for all those who have joined, thanks for taking time out of your day. We'll try to be respectful of your time and try to get to the core concept of the new provisions and hopefully you have some good insight that you might be able to start thinking about for your own situation. So as Eric mentioned, the Secure Act 2.0, effective immediately or as of January 1st of 2026, if you are what the IRS now deems as a high earner, your catch-up contributions must be Roth. And we'll get into some details here. But the end goal or the benefit for you as the end user is you do get to have the tax deferred growth and tax-free distributions later in retirement. One thing we want to be clear about is that you do have your traditional IRA and then also the Roth 401k, which is very different. And our focus today is going to be on the Roth 401k. If you're familiar, there are income limits on your regular Roth IRAs, and I've listed some of those below. You can see the max contribution is 7,500 for under 50 and up to 8,600 for 50 and above. But there are limitations specifically to income. But today's focus is going to be on the Roth 401k catch-up contributions for 50 and above. So on this slide goes into the definition of what the IRS has deemed as a high income earner. So if you made 150,000 or more in 2025 in what they call your FICA wages, or simply put for us, when we look at our W-2, it's in box 3. If that number is 150,000 or higher, any catch-up contributions in 2026 will now be mandated to be Roth catch-up contributions. Now, below that graph, you'll see 3 bullet points, and I think these are important to kind of clarify. Regardless of your age, the base contribution, or what we kind of focus on, is saying, are you maxing out your 401k? That portion of 24,500 still gets to stay pre-tax. So you get all those benefits of tax deductions for fully up to the 24,500. What's changing here is the catch-up contributions after that and being above the age 50 and beyond. One thing to note, because this is mandated as of January 2026, company plans, believe it or not, some don't even offer a Roth 401k option, let alone the catch-up contributions to be Roth. So what we know today is there are companies that are working right now to make sure that it will be available by year end. But I think the big takeaway here is just understand it's not default readily available given the company that you're at. So this is a nice little table that breaks down how much of an impact you can have if you wanted to save aggressively. Now, again, keep in mind, this is for 50 years and above where these strategies really can come into play. So we're going to look at each column and go down. And you'll see in the first one where it says below 50, you've got your base deferral of 24,500. That's still the same. Your catch-up limit, of course, is 0 because we're under 50. And then the employee max is, as you would imagine, 24,500. Now, where it starts to grow and we're able to implement some potential accelerated savings is where you're 50 to 59. And then there's a special provision. That's why you see the 64 plus. But again, base deferral, 24,500, max out your 401k. Your catch-up limit is now 8,000 that you're able to additionally save. That's the portion that will now be mandatory Roth, giving you a total of 32,500 that you're able to save for retirement. Now, Eric mentioned this at the beginning. There is now what's called a super catch-up that went into effect in 2025. And really, in the eyes of the IRS, their thought process is anyone who's in this age and still working might want to be in a category that wants to save even more before they actually retire. So you get what's called the super catch up, and it's only for these 3 years, as you can see, 60 to 63. Base deferral stays the same. The catch up limit now goes up to 11,250. This is the Roth portion. And then giving you a total of an employee max of 35,750. So some strategic impacts, taxes now versus later. If you look at the two jars there, what we're really getting is tax diversification. But most of you may be on this call thinking or asking why? Why is this now being mandated? And it really boils down to the IRS is saying, we want taxes today. We don't want this portion, or for those who are 50, for their catch-up contributions to be taxed later. We want the tax revenue today, but in return, we get tax-free growth and tax-free retirement income distributions. So there is some give and take, but some nuances that we need to be aware of as well. So that's to bullet point number 3, the Roth contributions. Again, Roth contributions are taxed first and then put into our 401ks. So what does that mean for you guys? That means if you're in this category and you are saving aggressively and you are overflowing into the catch-up contribution brackets, you might actually start to see a reduction in your paycheck. If you've seen that, you might be wondering why. Most of the instances so far, it's going to be because now you're getting an actual tax withholding from your paycheck before it goes into your 401k. So we'll get into some details of what we should be looking for, but that's an important takeaway from here. One more point that I'll mention here is the tax diversification. What we've seen when we work with clients that are in retirement, it is nice to have the option. It is nice to have a bucket that you can pull from that is taxed as ordinary income, which is the traditional old way. And it's also nice to have a bucket that you can take distributions from and not be taxed. Everyone's situation in retirement will be different. You don't know what tax bracket you're going to be in, so having options is always good for maneuvering. So the paycheck reality check. I slightly started going into this right about now. If you are a super saver and you're aggressively saving to max out your 401k, maybe more so than your standard path, understand that your paychecks might start reflecting like what looks like it might have been a haircut. So what we say is take a look at your paychecks, take a look at your previous paychecks from earlier in the year, and then we can help with doing an analysis to see if that difference from what you were used to can be absorbed. Does it make sense to continue that? And do we have to make any adjustments based off of that? I think the important takeaway on this slide here is the very last bullet point, if you guys want to look at that. Maxing out your 401k too early, or at least before end of year. So this is a pitfall just in general that I think is notable. If you're maxing out within the first 4 months, 5 months, 6 months of the year, there is a very good chance you could be missing out on your employer match contributions. So if you're no longer contributing in year or in month 7, you could be missing out on your employer matches for the rest of the year. So that's something to be mindful of. Now, it says true up. True up is a function of a company plan. It's a lot more rare, but it does exist. And true up is kind of like what it sounds like. If you do max out your 401k early and the employer contributions do stop, a true up means if the company has this in place at the end of the year, they'll look back at your full contributions and say, okay, Jay did a full contribution to his 401k. We do a 3% match. We'll put it in December and you get your match. Again, that's something we have to look into to see if it's there. And again, not as common. So the no Roth trap. Mentioned this again earlier. The option to have a Roth 401k, believe it or not, it's not ubiquitous. Not every plan offers it, let alone the catch up provisions. But we think going forward, it will be everywhere with every company plan. It's just a matter of time to catch up, especially with these provisions. So the big takeaway here is if you don't have it today, first we need to find out. And if you do want to be a super saver and aggressively save, it's the difference of being able to save an extra 8,000 to 11,250 for retirement, which could have some meaningful impacts on compounding and generating future income for your retirement needs. So the Q1 audit, four things that I think our audience can take away from here as actionable, or put it in there to think about and make sure we check in on these things. Check your pay stubs, right? The pay stubs, everyone is pretty familiar with how much it is on a consistent basis. If there's some variations, it's worth digging into, and we can help you with that. The super catch up. If you are in this category of the age of 60 to 63, keep in mind, this is an election that we have to make. The company plan will not assume because you're 61 that you're going to do super catch up and that you're allowed to do super catch up. So if you're in this bucket, again, it's very specific. We can help you with this, but it's as you can see by the numbers, a lot more additional savings that we can put towards your retirement. Bullet point 3, spouse income. So with the Secure Act 2.0, this only applies to your income, meaning who is working at this particular company. So if your wife or husband is making $1 million at company X over there, it makes no difference to what you're making over here. And we're looking at 150 and beyond to be impacted by this change in the Secure Act 2.0. And your previous years will not port over. This is also important to note. Previous years before this change, you were able to make catch-up contributions that were pre-tax. So we cannot assume that what you had last year will now port over exactly this year, let alone depending on what your plan administration has or administrator has as far as the Roth provisions, if it's active, what options you have. So keep that in mind. These are definitely good items to be checking in on because we don't want any surprises later on down the road. Okay, Eric, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. And I want to just reiterate something you said there, which is really important. These rules are changing on a pretty regular basis, every year or two. There's some tweaks to these rules, and it's a really difficult evolution to follow along with. And so we tell everybody, these rules are not easy to keep up with. So just engaging, even having a quick consultation with us can be really helpful. So you know what the most current rules that apply, how that's impacting your planning and your future retirement plans or your current retirement plans. So this is not something that's a one and done type of a assessment. We do this on a regular basis and keep you abreast of any of these changes so that you avoid the common pitfalls. As I mentioned earlier, we are particularly focused on your company benefits. So while we do holistic planning and we look at every aspect of your personal financial situation to put you in the best place for the future, our real expertise is on the details of your company benefit plans. I find a lot of people don't really always understand how to navigate those and really just how to understand the options that are available to you. So that's our main focus is really where we can add a lot of value immediately for you. Because of our focus on these company plans, we actually can help you manage your funds directly. So this slide here mentions Fidelity, but we are an independent team. So we can work with plans that are held through Fidelity, Schwab, Pershing, Principal's another one. Really, just about anybody out there we can help you with and have that direct management, that direct advice on some of your plans. Now, the benefits we consult on are not only financial. So not just the 401k and the Roth 401k, but for those of you lucky enough to still have a pension program, which only about 8% of US employees these days still have a pension, we'll help you with those formulas and we'll consult to maximize that benefit for you. And then the big one that nobody likes to talk about because it's really just a challenging these days is the medical coverage. So this is both medical coverage for you, your spouse, possibly your children, and then how does that evolve as you enter retirement and approach the age of 65 when Medicare kicks in? So all aspects of these benefits are areas that we will help you with. Again, as a full service firm, we do financial planning, but also tax. And the big one that a lot of people really find the most benefit from, I think, is estate planning. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because there's a lot of nuance to it. But what I mean by estate planning is setting up a individual trust or a will or a power of attorneys. So if something happens, you know what the succession plan is for control of your accounts and who can give directions. I would argue that's one of the most important pieces that many people overlook. And then finally, on this one, the logistics support. And what this means is when you enter the retirement process with your company, there's a number of different forms, account setup, different withdrawal schedules. You know, how do you actually access your money? And we will hold your hand through every step of that. So we don't file the forms for you, but we will walk you through how to correctly fill out those forms. And again, make sure you're not leaving any money on the table. So as for next steps, this is, a lot of people ask us, I have some questions. I don't know if I want to hire an advisor, but I'd like to just get some consultation. That's perfect. We take an education first approach with this, and that's why we offer these types of webinars, no cost, of course, just to provide value and give you some good information that will apply to your situation, whatever that is. So talk to us just so we can help answer your questions. We'll put a complimentary plan together for you, and that entails taking a snapshot of where you are today and then calculating that out into the future so you know the track that you're on now and maybe a couple things that you can do along the way to make sure that you end up in that most secure and stable retirement position when that time comes for you. Now, if you like what we have to say and you think that we're taking a valuable approach for you, then we would enter into a stage where we look at maybe managing some of these accounts for you and helping give you guidance on the investment portfolios, how to make changes over time, and making sure that your risk is in line with your position in life and that adjusts, as that evolves over time. So I wanted to just give you here a couple of questions. These are not questions I'm going to answer live on the call, but these are very common questions that we get from our clients and the people that engage with us. So just read through this list, and if any of these spark a thought for you or say, hey, I wish I had an answer for that, for how that applies to me, that's perfect. That's what this is for. So just to give you a couple ideas of some things that we will answer and help you navigate, this is a list of questions here, but anything else is welcome as well. The complementary financial plan that we put together generally addresses most of these questions. So that's something that I personally believe everybody should do at least once. The plan is something that's a snapshot, so it does change over time. And it's something that we would update with you as things progress in your life and as things evolve. So I want to be mindful of everybody's time. So I'm going to kind of end the official slide section here. We're going to open up a little bit of time here for Q&A. But you can see for Jay and myself, our information is on the screen. So our phone numbers, our emails, and that QR code, you can scan that with your phone and it will bring up a meeting scheduler. So you can pick the day, the time, whatever is most convenient for you, and we'll just do a quick consultation to answer any questions that you have. So at this
Yeah.
point, I'm gonna end the slides, but we'll open up for some Q&A. Jay, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, just to add really quick, you could even just take a picture of this slide entirely. Eric and I, that's a number that is direct to us. So you can text us, you can call us, or you can email us directly on that line.
Perfect. Yep. And it looks like we do have a few questions here. So I'll take the first one here, and then Jay, if you could take the next one. And what
Sure.
we're going to do here is just give you a quick assessment or quick feedback on the question. If you want to know how these questions apply to you more specifically or more individually, we always want to be very, very careful of any personal information. So if this is a question that starts, my situation is this, what do I do? Then that's something that we'd probably suggest taking offline just so we can preserve your privacy and make sure we're giving you the best advice that applies to you as an individual. First question here, a great one. I've heard this before, but it's not a super common question. I think more people should be asking this. And the question is there any reason to invest Roth 401k money differently than a traditional pre-tax 401k money? It's a very good question. It's an insightful question because the tax treatment is different on those two. So, should the investment strategy be different? And I would say that the answer is yes. In some cases, those will be two different investment strategies. The reason being that depending on the plan that you have in place, your pre-tax money may be preserved for a longer timeline for when you're going to access those funds, or maybe the Roth money, you plan on saving that for a longer time frame. So you kind of look at it as there's a short-term bucket of money and maybe a longer-term bucket of money. Depending on those timelines, that can determine the investment strategy that you take. So, without going into too much specific detail, the answer is yes. You want to look at each account and investing that based on how that account fits into your overall plan and your withdrawal timeline through the course of your retirement.
Yeah, just to add to that, Eric, I would say I think that falls into the definition of asset location. So,
Mhm.
that everyone's different. Everyone has a different need and a purpose if they have kids, grandkids, and gifting. So, yes, it's a very insightful question to think that there should be different approaches to these different tax deferred vehicles.
Mhm. Yep, excellent point. So yeah, Jay, you want to take the next one there? I can
Um,
read it. So it says, does the Roth catch-up rule apply if I changed employers recently?
um, so the answer to that is it's specific to the current employer and your income from last year. So that means if I was working with company A last year and I'm working with company B this year, it doesn't apply because I'm now with company B. And so that means ultimately I have the option if I want to do pre-tax or post-tax with my catch-up contributions.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we find while many employers offer very similar types of retirement plans, there are some, as Jay mentioned, where your employer may not offer a Roth 401k option. And so comparing what the options were at your previous employer versus maybe what your current employer is offering,
Mm-hmm.
that could change the strategy as well. And you have to be aware and cognizant of that. And then we got one more question here. I think we got time for at least one more.
Okay.
If my catch-up has to be Roth based on the rules that we talked about today, does that mean my employer match also becomes a Roth contribution? Jay, you want to take that?
Yeah, so there's some nuance to this one. Um, the short answer is no. Your employer match is always pre-tax. Okay. So that's good. But actually, with Secure Act 2.0, there is a provision in there that says employers are now allowed to make matching contributions that are Roth. So this is going to play out and that's going to take some time. But what we've seen in the marketplace today is no one's actually making that election right now because it's a big administrative burden and it's costly to make these types of changes to corporations that have hundreds or thousands of employees. But overall speaking, we think that's a win for us as plan participants to be able to have their matching contributions be Roth as well. So I think time will tell. I think it's going to move in that direction. But Secure Act 2.0 did make an impact in that regard.
Mhm. Yeah, and just to add on to that, previously there was not even an option for employers to make Roth matching
Correct.
contributions. So this is kind of shifting the whole landscape, and I think the dust is still settling on what the long-term impacts are going to be on that option becoming available. So just wanted to again just to be conscious of everybody's time. Oh, sorry, we got one more question here. Let me grab that one real quick. So the question is, I'm 60 years old and I plan to retire in the next couple of years. Will the Roth catch-up still benefit me? And that's a very good question. It's a very specific question, but not for a name, so it's okay. We can handle this one. Um, the way that we look at using a Roth catch-up as you're getting very close to retirement, there's some different components of that we'd want to look at. First one, of course, would be how long do you plan on working still? If you're going to retire in the next year or two and then start drawing down your money, you might not have the timeline to make that Roth valuable and get the tax treatment that is the purpose really of utilizing a Roth account. It could benefit you if you have the ability to sock away a bunch of money. You have a lot of extra money and you just want to sock that away, max out that catch up and really put money away for the long term if you're not going to use it right away. But there's a lot of nuance and a lot of variables to that question that we'd probably have to go deeper to really give a hard yes or no answer on that one. So please reach out. You can send either Jay or myself an email. Our phone numbers are on there. You can text us, send us one of us an email, or again, you can use that QR code and schedule some time, to just have a chat with one of us, have a call, and we'll walk you through your personal
Yeah.
situation.
I think just to add really quick, I know we're on time here, but the big takeaway is yes, you can save more, but some of you in the audience might be thinking, that's a lot, right? I still need to pay my bills and have an annual income that I can do things that I want to do today. And that's absolutely right. So really the thing here is know about this, even if you're under 50, that it can be implemented as a strategy and what are the benefits. But there are other ways that you can still save money as well. So that's why it's nuanced, it's very specific for each individual. And that's where we can kind of shed some light on that with the consultation if you want and give you some ideas.
And regardless of all of that, in the chat, we posted a link here. For anybody attending this call, please click the link and sign up. We're giving a complimentary gift for everybody who attended today. So please check that chat, click the link, and sign up for your free gift as our thank you for attending and spending time with us today.
Well, thank you for your time, everyone. We really do appreciate it. Hopefully, there's some follow up and we get to connect on a one on one basis and that there was some valuable information that you're able to take away for this. So thanks again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.